Okay, welcome to August Friday Live. All right, this Friday Live is our our monthly, that would be way too much work. Our monthly meetup group that we sponsor, it's sponsored by FM BetterForms. And it's a little bit, has a little bit of a bias towards that stuff, but we try to have lots of FileMaker things. Today we're pretty excited. We have Silas, who's new to our team, and he's going to be joining us soon, I think. He has been with us for the summer, and he's going to be presenting n8n and some of the automation, some of the stuff that he's been working on through the course of the summer. So we're excited about that. This month, we're going to go through our regular stuff. We got a repeat. We got updates and updates. UX Corner by Pearson. We're going to have Silas, as I mentioned, and then we're going to follow up with a swag draw. So if you're here for that, we have, and if you've registered ahead of time, which I think most people have, then we put your name into a draw. We You will get that swag. Sometimes it's we wait till the next event that we see you in person, or we'll mail those out, but we do eventually get caught up on those. All right. A couple things coming up, some conferences. We're going to be at some of the team will be at Build, Grow, Learn, which is a business-oriented conference in Greenville, South Carolina. We went last year and we got a lot out of it. It's not your FileMaker conference. There was some FileMaker stuff there, like a beginner track, kind of introducing new people to FileMaker, if that's a thing. And but more, it was really about how to structure your consultancy, how to grow your business. Talked about exit plans, talked about management, HR, marketing, and a bunch of other things as well. So it was really, really good. If you're entrepreneurial in any fashion, or you're in any kind of management as well. So I really encourage people to check that one out over all the other conferences. There's so much FileMaker information, in my opinion, that online that the conferences, you think, what do you usually get out of the conferences? And I usually get the networking and stuff, and this one's a perfect one for that. Naples FileMaker Week, that's the continuation of Rome FileMaker Week. We're not sure if we're going to be attending that one yet, but we did attend and sponsor last year, and we gave some talks as well. Melbourne, Australia is Reconnect, and we are a sponsor of that one there. We won't be attending in person, but we're excited for that conference. It's kind of their own sort of unique niche Asia Pacific group there. And of course, there's Engage U. I heard that there's going to be close to 300 people there this year. So Engage U is supposed to have a really, really good turnout. FileMaker Engage in Austin was 470, I think, people, 450 people. I think that's what one of the workers there had told me. And so this is going to be almost as big if you think about that. And it's a little bit more independent. So it's a really, really good conference. I find the European conferences are pretty good technology wise. They're good. They're pretty rich, including .fmp. I think kind of set that tone for that. So we're going to be a sponsor, and we will be attending that as well. So hope to see you guys all there. I'm going to flip things over right away to just quickly to Hassan. He's leads up FM BetterForms as a product, and he's going to talk about just some recent updates and things like that.
Hey guys, thanks Charles. So for BetterForms, we've done a lot of changes behind the scenes recently. We have a lot of AI related changes. We did a base code stability patch for a 408 error. We've done various bug fixes and GUI changes, and more will follow next week. Additionally, I have some things I want to show off here that we've been doing. I'm just going to head over to my screen. One of the new features I'll be releasing early next week is being able to set your own JWT expiration for your apps. This is going to be pretty useful if you want to have like shorter times for people to log in. So this is something to look out for next week. And there's instructions over here in the documentation, how you'll change it and everything over here. Additionally, the BF Academy will be releasing next week as well. We have a lot of getting started videos on creating your first app. This is essentially going to be our documentation in video form, but updated. Additionally, we'll have more like unique specialized videos, such as for card modals, like anything more advanced as well, how to pass data, configuring options, and anything of the sorts. If you have any other tips and videos you'd like to see, let us know and we could record our best practices for those. Lastly, so every Thursday, as you guys may know, that we have open office hours. So for people to take more advantage of that, we've been adding a rotating schedule now. Starting next week, we'll have a rotating schedule where I'll be taking the first week, and the specialty and focus will be on front-end development. And every week we'll switch. So for example, if you have any UX questions, You can look out for Pearson on September 18th, and he'll have open office hours, and you can bring your UX questions for him. All right. If there's not any questions, we'll move on.
Awesome. Thanks, Hassan. That JW feature, JWT feature, it's just a small setting. Maybe we'll demonstrate it later if we have some time. And basically, the main gist here is that by default, FM BetterForms basic authentication logs you out after 24 hours. Now you can set that anywhere from minutes to weeks, as depending on your what your client's needs are. So it gives a lot of flexibility there, and it's pretty easy to set. It is app wide, so it'll set all three environments there. All right. Next, we have Pearson with UX Corner. He's going to be talking about, I'm not sure actually what you're talking about today, Pearson.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, so today I want to talk about kind of a little briefly about the UI of AI and how we've seen that grow and evolve and how we've been trying to keep up with it. And I want to maybe show a couple new things I'm working on with the AI, the chat box specifically, and just kind of show some of the progress or the direction that we're going with that. Um, but yeah, I guess just in general, I want to talk about how AI evolves from a UI perspective because I'm sure we all are very aware of how it is evolving from the technical side and how these features are growing and evolving. You know, just recently I was playing a lot with the new or the relatively new agent mode in ChatGPT. I'm not sure if anybody else has had a chance to use that. And it's so funny because I feel like my standard for AI has just shot up
Mm.
exponentially. And when I'm using this agent mode, I find it funny that there are elements that I'm disappointed by. Like you could 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you could tell me that this AI can take control of its own remote computer and log into my Notion and make pages and modify things, and I could walk away and come back in an hour and it's done. Um, but the way that it was working, I was using it for cataloging maps or restaurants around Toronto,
Mm.
restaurants that I've wanted to go to or restaurants that I like, and I give it a lot of parameters. Like here's a database in Notion, and I want you to scrape their website and any review sites and tell me what kind of food it is, where is it, what neighborhood is it in, um, give me a link to the menu, all this stuff. And and the way that it works, if you haven't seen, I connected it to my Notion so it can log in and take control, no problem. But it will kind of narrate everything that it's thinking as it's maneuvering around the website. So as they're on my Notion, it's describing, okay, I'm gonna try to click on this link, but that doesn't work. Now I'm in edit mode. And now I'm gonna click somewhere else. And it's going step by step exactly what it's thinking. And it kind of talks like it's never used technology before in a way. But all of that is to say that as the technology advances, so does the UI. In agent mode, you need to have that viewfinder of what ChatGPT is seeing. Um, when you're trying to write an essay with ChatGPT, they made a UI change where the screen will kind of expand and show you the document on one side in kind of a canvas, and then your prompts on the other side. Um, Other things like Gemini or Cursor, every time they come out with a new technological feature, you need UI to keep up with it. And I find that to be a really kind of interesting um, direction that the world is going in right now. My world specifically with UI, it's we're creating a lot new or we're discovering, I guess, some new design patterns because this technology is so new and so sometimes unfamiliar with what it can do. We have to create these new familiarized UI elements and features. Um, so let me jump into our our AI. So this is kind of a very brief evolution of how this chat box has developed. From the very left here, this was the very first iteration, I believe, of
Mhm.
chat FMBF. I guess I gave it this name a long time ago. I want to return to giving it a proper name, but I think this was just this I just threw in there for just as something to write in this header. But I remember that when I first developed this, I was mimicking or I was taking influence from kind of those customer service chatbots where you have this little icon and floating somewhere in the bottom corner, and you click it and it opens up. A lot of colors. And I would have made this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, but it still felt very still feels old school for whatever reason. I think I was not too a little unsure of how to present a cool new AI chatbot. What can we do to make it stand out? Because at the time there were so few features that keeping it as a kind of a white blank box felt too empty. So I was arbitrarily trying to add color into there, where at this point it was just one message to them, and or yeah, one message to the AI, you get one message back, very little interaction. And then our next advancement was this one, where now we can add images or links or documents, and now we have some. I think at this point we had more complex responses coming back, and they would be laid out in a way that was a little more structured. Um, we could create new conversations from a button here. We could pin the whole chat box to the side of the screen. So with these couple new features, as simple as they were, it did kind of add a little more personality and character to this box here. And in the latest edition, something that we're working on is adding a couple new features. I won't get into all of them, but maybe some form of a history log, because sometimes maybe you are asking a random question that you will never return to, but other times you might be developing something, or you might be having a conversation, or you might be working with the AI in some way where you don't want that conversation to get lost. Maybe it's providing some useful information that you can reference at a later time. So we want to be able to give that option to return to some old logs. Hasn't been fully developed in terms of what logs are going to be saved. Is it all of them? Is it specific ones? How is that going to work? But that's something that we're working towards. And another thing, something that I noticed was a lot of AI uh, tends to over explain, or sometimes it just kind of goes on and on. And I just wanted a simple answer. So something that I was thinking, and what I'd like to add here is just a very brief summary that can be expanded if you want to know more. But if I'm just asking it, um, hey, what's the best way to display an image carousel? Should I use a carousel, or should I use some other some other element? And I just want a simple answer. Use a carousel because of not even XYZ, just X. Keep it brief. And if I want to know more, then I have this opportunity, or I have this option to uh, open up the explanation and read more into it if I so desire. I just find that some of these responses get way too long, and it kind of defeats the purpose of me using this AI as a quick answer for something menial. Um, we're also thinking of giving some more context to how the AI is processing or thinking of things. So similar to ChatGPT, I like being able to see how it's thinking as it's answering. I think that's kind of an interesting um, way to observe how the AI is operating, and if it's on the wrong track, maybe I can catch it ahead of time before it puts all this effort into thinking, and I can stop it, maybe rewrite my prompt and get a better response if I see that it's going in the wrong direction. I think yeah, I guess just a couple more examples of how um how AI has evolved.
You may want to show. I thought you just had on the like dynamic buttons and dynamic interface, which is something you don't see too much of yet.
Yes.
Somewhere there was a couple buttons.
Sorry, I think I just have to link these back together really quick. Um, might have lost my place in the UI. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, a couple dynamic buttons. Let's say that you ask it something, it thinks about it for a second. Oh, here's a dog picture. Yeah, so now we have like another feature that AI is capable of is suggesting actions to take after it responds. So here you ask it something or you give it a prompt, it comes back and it even suggests a couple things that it can do based on its response and what you've asked it. You can take this action or this action. Um, and I think that's a really great tool that can help maybe move you forward in a way that maybe you weren't thinking of initially. I think that you also want to be able to, or we want to give the users more context as to what some of these buttons do. If we want to be able to train this AI to give better responses, so we have this button down here. You can give the responses a thumbs down if it's not the right response, and just to give some information. This goes back to a talk I had probably almost a year ago now. Um, Error states, or maybe giving context to some of these um, minor interactions. I guess this isn't necessarily an error. It's
That's
almost
still
like your
feedback.
is
Yeah.
feedback, yeah, and you're giving feedback to the user what's happening. You're also kind of identifying an error, uh, and I think that's something that will always continue to help improve the AI by letting us know this was not the response I was expecting. So those are just some things that we've added there. Um, and I wanted to ask, maybe as a general open question, how many people are using the AI maybe infrequently, consistently? Have we maybe not even tried it yet? What's the perception of our AI or other AIs out there and what we like and what we don't like, if anybody has any opinion on that. Can't tell if everybody's using it or if
Uh,
nobody's
I'll
using it.
I'll chime in. I find it incredibly valuable. I can't imagine using better forms anymore without the AI.
Oh, really? What kind of uses are you coming
I'll
across?
use it to help me build. Like I have embraced that probably more than I have the drag and drop design. I need to embrace the drag and drop more, but the AI just seems to give me everything I need.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's
So
interesting. Sorry, go
are you
ahead,
going
Pearson.
are you going in and you're asking it purely for is it code assistance or
Yes,
asking it
cool.
to code itself?
Um, More code itself, actually. It does a very good job at that. I may ask questions on different techniques, but usually I'll say, "Hey, I need this item containing these keys. Please do it up." And then it continues to refine itself when I say I need more rounded corners. It just saves me from even having to, and it's probably not a good thing, necessarily learn all the tailwind stuff and learn it just it's I feel like for me it's really sped up my development when I do pages.
Mm, that's great. Stuart, you have your hand up. You'd like to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I haven't used it in quite a while, so I'm sure there've been improvements, but the last time I tried to use it, I just wanted to get one piece of code, uh, alter it to try to fix something that I couldn't figure out how to do, and it rewrote the whole page. And and I had to go to I had to go to I had to restore because I couldn't replace what it had done. So I found that frustrating. So I just in the end, it was a small fix that needed to be done, and I called Hassan and I said, Hassan, can you fix this for me? Because I just couldn't figure out how to fix this piece of code, and it was a small piece of code, but it rewrote the whole page. So I don't know if that's been fixed because I just needed one section fixed.
So yeah, I can touch base on that one a bit. So this is a really hard problem. Like when you click a thumbs down, it creates a log in our event log system, and it says this is the context and this is the whole thread. Um, and almost all the time, it's a user asking a question, which I wouldn't ask. I don't mean that as an insult in any way, but it's like I'm more knowledgeable. I actually wrote most of the software there, so I can pretty much know how to wrangle it. And it's how do you get the AI to understand you better? Right? And how do we kind of learn to do that? I mean, we're going to naturally learn through a feedback process, right? Just from using GPT and using, Gemini or whatever you're using and learning where to be specific and where to be really vague. Because sometimes you want to be really vague and give the AI agency to have a creativity. And other times you want to be really specific so it doesn't do that. So it's a challenge to do that. And we don't, to be honest with you, don't have anything in our prompting system currently that says they may be vague, ask questions. We do have something that says if it's unclear, but the AI thinks everything is clear, right? It's a little bit optimistic that way. So that's a real hard challenge, and I don't know if that's something we should solve, to quite honestly, because I think it won't be a problem in a year from now, because I think everybody will be used to using agents in everything that they do that will, it's like Google. When Google first came out, it's like, how do I find something? I'm looking for something. And it's like, no, that's not what you need to search for. Now everybody has excellent Google foo, right? But originally when we started searching, not everybody could find stuff that they needed to. And Google has gotten better as well. So it's an interesting challenge. But it's
Just
something
as
we're
a
definitely
side
aware
point,
of.
what you said about Google and whatever. So I was searching for a part to fix a watch actually, and I could not find this part number anywhere. Uh, the actual part number or and finally I went to an AI agent, or I went to ChatGPT, and I put in what I was looking for, and it found, using various pages that came up and like would come up in a Google search, it actually found the reference to the actual part number that I needed to replace this part on a vintage watch. And so AI does have a lot more power in it than I could ascertain from reading all these blog entries and forum entries and everything else. And AI just managed to find it in one search that I've been spending weeks looking for this part, and I finally thought, oh well, maybe I'll try AI.
So that's interesting. You mentioned search. Silas, our feature today, is going to be talking quite a bit about that, and we'll kind of circle back onto that one. I'm just looking at the comments here. Hi, Ian. Welcome. Good to see you again. He says, I'm not using AI in BetterForms, but I am running Claude pretty close to all the time, and Claude Code is usually running whenever I'm in PyCharm, which is his IDE. So as you start to use any of these tools, doesn't matter because it's all the same LLMs, right? And even there's subtle differences between, say, GPT and Gemini and Anthropic. People could argue there's differences, but for the most part, you're prompting almost identically in all of them. And in fact, most of these IDEs use the identical prompts across all of them with very, very subtle variations. So, so it's definitely something I think we're gonna get more used to in terms of coding. And just going back to some things what Chris was saying um, about BetterForms AI agent. To give you an idea, the age that we have in production is about version 2.5 right now. We're actually working on version 7 right now, the actual one that we're developing. And the reason why we're so far ahead and we haven't deployed any of those because we keep changing architectures and the industry changes and suddenly we have a new ability. And we originally didn't have function calling, so we had to emulate those, and then we have function calling, and now we have bigger contexts and a whole bunch of things. So we keep re-engineering that stuff. And that's something that we're learning. And if I could give anybody AI, it's just ship something. Don't try to get it perfect, which is what we tried to do, and it's wrong. So our AI ends up being a little bit behind, in my opinion. Although everybody, looking at the comments, 80% of us use it and seem to be okay with it. So,
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add to one of the things you mentioned, Stuart, with the AI rewriting the whole page. If you're using the D&D editor, it does target specific areas and rewrites only that. Additionally, we are working on a different
Sorry, you said
thing.
DND. I don't know what that
drag and
means.
That's
drop.
our drag and drop GUI
Yeah, I
editor.
haven't converted my app yet. I'll
Yeah.
talk to you offline about that.
Yeah, we've been doing various changes on that. That's probably getting the most amount of updates. So if you saw it like a while ago, it's vastly different and it still gets a lot of updates. So that's something to consider.
Right.
All right.
Well, great. Yeah, I think like what you said, Charles, Silas is gonna talk about kind of wrap up what we just ended talking about. So I'll pass it off to you guys.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Pearson. Just jump back to my screen here. I want to introduce Silas. Silas is a new member of our team. He's was an intern with us through the course of the summer, university student, and he'll probably tell you a little bit more about that. He primarily his main projects over the summer were to um, the from the management perspective, it's like, oh, it was like, do we want to bring on a summer student? Yes, he's got to have ROI. It can't just be it can't just be a pure learning experience. It has to be a blend in there. And one of the biggest ways I think any business can add ROI, and we found maker developers, so we already know this, is to add some type of automations into something that you're doing. Um, Make those into small chunks and make those chunks deliverable. And the stuff that he's been working on, you won't see directly, but you're going to see the benefits of as he demonstrates. So, Silas, well, welcome to your first presentation on Friday Live.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, as he mentioned, my name is Silas. I am going to my last year at the University of Guelph for computer science. And let me share my screen here. And I'm going to be showcasing some of my n8n automations and talking about n8n. And um, yeah, so why don't we get started with some motivation for what we're working on here? So we're looking to improve our AI assistant by giving it access to all of our Friday Live data because we've been doing Friday Live for several years now, and as you guys all know, there's so much useful tidbits of information that get collected by members of our team and guest speakers as well. And so we are looking to give our AI access to all that. So if we have a prompt like, I want to watch Friday Live videos on AI. Let's say I want to improve my prompting abilities or just be more productive in general with AI, then it can have access to, you'll see in a second. You may recognize these Friday Lives from a while back, but these are all timestamped links to different sections.
And Ian was here just a second ago. He just said in chat that he has to drop out for a bit, but he'll be back.
Oh,
So
he
he
just
missed
missed
his
it?
cameo there, his face.
Okay.
So,
Well, it's okay. We can loop back to that later, maybe when he's around. Anyway, let's jump into the actual automation here. All right, so this is the n8n automation. Just a brief background on n8n in general. We've talked about it a little bit before, but essentially workflows are made up of these nodes here, and each node has these arrows coming in and out, which represent the flow of logic and the inputs and outputs here. It's very simple to build, and it's really powerful because it's so easy to integrate with different software, and you can also use, oh,
sorry.
used n8n. Oh, that's cool. Um, and you can also use AI agents as we're using here and once you incorporate AI into something like n8n, I really believe the possibilities are endless and only end with your own imagination. So, all right, let's get started at the beginning of this program here. And I do want to mention as well, Charles already mentioned this, but if you have any questions, please just interrupt me and we can have a discussion right here. I'm gonna take it slow through this big workflow. So, all
And
right.
sorry, Silas, can you just a quick overview of exactly what it's doing there? Like I saw the YouTube link. Where did that data come from, maybe? And then that'll give us sort of an overview before we get into the
All right.
minutia.
So the YouTube links, here, why don't we get started by looking at the prompts maybe, and that will help us out. So the first step of this program is fetching these prompts from Notion. Let me disable this quickly. And so this is our prompts database in Notion that we're fetching all of our prompts from. And so as you can see, not just our Friday Live prompts, but all the prompts for all our different automations that are here. And you can get a little sneak peek into some of the other automations that we're working on. So we've got a Pipedrive automation, which is helping sales and follow-up emails for Charles. And we're working on some general support bots that have connection to our forums as well. And now to answer Charles' question about where that information is actually coming from. So as you can see, this is a very simple prompt, but we're returning some information from this this database over here. The AI agent is fetching this information. And so as you can see, this record at the very top here, this is actually today's Friday Live. So once this video is available on YouTube, we can just input the YouTube link here. Input the audio file over on the right, and then set it as ready for transcription. As you can see, our last Friday Live is already ready for transcription here. And so then this automation, what it's going to do is it's going to run out on a timer and fetch that information, transcribe it, and then post some information onto Notion, like a AI-generated title and summary, some hot topics. It's going to use the YouTube link to generate time-stamped links to different subsections based on some cool information in the Friday Lives. And then it's going to post our transcript and then actually post it to the vector store as well at the end. And so now we're going to see that in action here. And let me just double check that the database has everything set up correctly. And since it's got the right tags and it's got the right information, it looks like
Silas,
we're ready to go.
could you just mention what that other page was, that other Notion page?
This page here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is our database for all of our Friday Lives. This is actually publicly available, but as you can see, we've got all our different Friday Lives from over the years. And if we just go into a page from, this is our Friday Live from 2 months ago now, where we talked about MCP and FileMaker. We've actually got every single Friday Live transcribed, and we've got different hot topics, which are essentially the most sort of interesting parts of any Friday Live, all with time-stamped links here. We've got an AI-generated summary, a table of contents, and then we've got a speaker diaries transcript for the whole Friday Live here as well. So if you ever want the transcripts for Friday Live, you can come over here. Is there any other questions about this page here, Charles?
No, that's great. So this is that those hot topics are what your automation is generating.
Yep.
Okay.
And it also generates the transcript as well, but that's what the AI specifically is
Chris
generating.
had a quick question there.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a FileMaker community, just more curious, what's the advantage of using Notion as your backend rather than using FileMaker and the BetterForms page?
You absolutely could. I can jump in there. You absolutely could use FileMaker, and in fact, for other AI, we do use FileMaker. Maybe I'll do a demonstration of that later on. The main reason here is accessibility by anybody who doesn't use FileMaker in our team. So this means that we could have an AI agent in the future that, say, serves our accounting department. And that person who normally doesn't use FileMaker for anything can easily go in and maybe make a change to that prompt. Say, I notice it's a little bit longer, and they can, prompts are pretty editable by the average person, right? So that's one of the main reasons. And it's also a bit of a proof of concept as well. And it's easier to integrate. So,
Okay.
If we were using Notion to FileMaker, it's not too bad as well, but it's pretty easy here. Or sorry, FileMaker to n8n to FileMaker, it's not too bad.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm gonna go
Thank
ahead
you.
and test this automation now, since it's gonna take a minute for the whole transcription job. But you can see right away it's jumping into the database there and fetching a record that's ready for transcription. And just in a second here, it's gonna, oh, actually, let's talk about the output. So this is the output parser we have here, and it actually is gonna ensure that this is a chatbot model, right, with the AI agent, but this is going to ensure that the output here is structured into this information that's only the information we need, in a sense, cutting out all the AI chatbot blabber and reducing any chance of hallucinations because we have this information that we're going to need later all set up in a nice JSON format here. We've also got this if statement to control the logic. That's because we're actually feeding two prompts into this AI agent throughout this automation. The second one is up here after we finish transcription. We're going to grab a second prompt from Notion, which is going to ask it basically to use the transcript provided to call these tools. And it's also got this tool called rule here. This is interesting, and I think this is important because it highlights one of the benefits of n8n, which is n8n is actually able to execute multiple workflows and nodes in parallel. So that's really powerful from a performance standpoint, but when you're integrating it with API calls, you have to be aware that you might get rate limited if you're calling too much all at the same time. So that's why we have this tool called rule here. All right, let's jump back over the automation. So you can see we're in the middle of like a simple polling routine. We're using Speechmatics here, so we've already created the job and we're just waiting for it to be transcribed now.
What is
So,
Speechmatics?
so yeah, let's check out Speechmatics website here. So it's a model that can be used for a couple different things, but it can be used for transcription and translation, and it uses LLMs to do so. You can check out. It compares itself with Google and Amazon here. It's trying to tell you that it's much better than all of them. For my testing, Speechmatics, Google, and Amazon, they're all amazing, and I couldn't find any errors in any of their translations or transcriptions. Even with speaker diarization, we also tried some other competitors like DeepGram. DeepGram, the transcription was good, but the speaker diarization was definitely subpar compared to this competition here. So yeah, they boast about having lots of languages that they support and speaker diarization as well, which, for if you don't know, speaker diarization is using the LLM based on speakers like tones of voice and how they're speaking to determine who's saying what word. And you'll see that later. All right, we're still in the middle of this routine here. So why don't we jump back to that poll that Charles inputted earlier? Does anybody else use any automation tools? This is a good time to chime in and
Yeah,
talk about those.
I posted the results from that, and we got the n8n at 25%, Claris Connect at 25%, Pure FileMaker at 38%, and Zapier, if then, and that, some other type of tool at 44%, which I'm actually kind of surprised at. What I like personally about n8n is there's a free version. So you have to pay for your own server to host it, but that's like $8 a month or something, so it's pretty dirt cheap. And and you have to maintain it, but we maybe once a year do that, so it's not too bad either. And it's pretty powerful, and it's got a nice UI. I personally like it better than Node-RED, which we have a Node-RED server as well, and we've demoed Node-RED maybe 4 or 5 years ago on some workflows that we've had. Um, I'm really curious what the most complex thing somebody's done in Claris Connect is, because of the paradigm of the way the UI is. It seems to me it'd be quite challenging to make fairly complex workflows. Same as Zapier for that matter.
We also had a question from Garrett Charles. I think you may have kind of answered that in a sense that we are hosting our own server.
Yes, Garrett, we are hosting it. We use DigitalOcean for that because it's like really easy. Most of our infrastructure is on AWS, but we use other providers um, platforms as a service because DigitalOcean is way better interface. Anybody who's worked with AWS knows that. Um, and that is the performance is totally fine. It's like sits at 2% or something like that. It's I think the smallest server or the second smallest server you can have.
All right. Well, we finished our transcription job and we fed our transcript back into the AI agent here. And it's gone ahead and summarized it and is posting all this stuff to the Notion page right now.
Silas,
And yep.
just a question there. When n8n is running, is there a log telling you what there is? Maybe you could show that quick because you
Yeah,
mentioned.
so that's actually one of the really cool points about n8n here. So you can see in sort of a green highlight what's actually been run already. And if you click on any node, you can actually see oh, you can
Oops.
actually see the input to the node and the output to the node. So it's real easy to debug and see where you went wrong, see exactly what's coming out of each node, and see exactly where you are in the automation. So you can follow it along. Right now, we're in the middle of this loop, which is posting the transcript. But before we jump ahead to there, I do want to mention if you take a look at these blocks here, you can see uh, we've got like some headers and some text and some links and some bullets marked down. And it's kind of annoying to use the actual Notion API directly to do this just because the JSON structure is kind of complex. But this is one of the good points about Notion here. Since it's integrated with, or sorry, good points about n8n. Since it's integrated with Notion so easily, you can actually just fill out these like predefined fields, and most of them are being filled out by the AI automatically. And I'm just prompting it as it goes along. And so it's very easy to structure the Notion posts in that sense.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, let's take a look at its actual output here. So we've got a title that's AI generated. We've got 8 hot topics, which, as I mentioned before briefly, they're essentially the most valuable parts of a Friday Live from a BetterForms or FileMaker developer's perspective. So let's check out some of these streaming APIs in BetterForms, an overview, practical demo, capabilities with FileMaker solutions, real-time interactions, embedding apps as widgets, mobile usability. So now all these hot topics are available inside our vector store, or they will be once this automation's finished running, as well as these timestamped links here to different portions of our Friday Live video on YouTube.
And those timestamps, they come from the company that did the transcripts, right? Is that right?
Um, no, actually, that's part of the reason why we have the YouTube URL here. We can just, how YouTube URL does its timestamps, you can
Hmm.
just do this and then modify it with a /t and then a time at the end. But it is the AI generating the timestamps based on, oh, you're saying the actual timestamps.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
where's
those
the
are
number? How do you
generated.
know it's like 1 minute and
Yeah, so
40?
let's take a look at the output here. Uh, so yeah. We have like a start time and end time on each one of the blocks of data here. So it actually, this service here, Speechmatics, transcribes each word separately, but we have some JavaScript in the middle that sort of chunks each. How the chunking works is it chunks each chunk of the transcript here. Let me pull up the transcript because it'll be easier to explain. Each of these blocks. Notion has a maximum number of words or characters per that you can post in a block. So it'll cut off, as you can see, this one cuts off even though it's the same speaker. And all the JavaScript also cuts off when it's a new speaker. So something like that. And then at the start of each block, it has the start time
It's
as
kind
part
of
of the
weird that they have a
transcript.
limit on the size of the block. Because I mean, I can just keep typing and make a mega block, right?
Yeah.
But it's weird that the API doesn't allow you to do that. And there must be some internal reason why they decided to to do that.
Oh, look at this. This is introducing me last time. Anyway. All right, so yeah, we're in the middle of this loop now, which is posting the transcripts, and we have this wait node just to make sure we don't get rate limited. And we also employ this wait node over here to make sure there's no race condition between something like these two nodes in case they execute in parallel. And this is going to take a minute, this loop here. But let's actually go down and show it posting in real time because it's kind of cool. You can see it posting each block.
Just
Anyway,
quick question, Silas, what's the name of the company? It's not DeepGram that we're using for transcription.
Speechmatics.
Beachmatics. There's quite a few, Chris, that do this kind of translation stuff, though.
But yeah,
Looks
while we're in this loop here, I want to pull out n8n's website briefly. Just they have this thing called automation templates, which are basically you can just copy paste any of these, and a lot of these are really cool. Like you can get a lot of use out of these if you, especially if you're already subscribed to something like Google Cloud or something like that. They've got workflows for automatic like email management that sorts incoming emails into different categories. They've got, I saw one where it was like it generates a deep research on a topic, so you can like prompt it to do research on some like advanced topic, and it'll generate like a university style report for you that you can come and read later on in the day. So yeah, really cool stuff. One more of my automations that we've done, which sort of shows the full capabilities of the AI agent, is this Pipedrive manager. Pipedrive is like a sales assistant software that helps manage new deals coming in. And so, as you can see, it's got a ton of different API tools here with Slack, Pipedrive, and soon to be Gmail as well. It's got different functions, which are different workflows inside n8n that it can call, and one of them is actually itself with a different prompts, making it multi-agentic. Charles taught me that yesterday. Anyway, on the left-hand side here, we've got different use cases, and for each use case here, we've got different triggers, and based on the trigger, it's gonna fetch a different prompt from Notion and feed that prompt into the AI agent, but they're using all the same tools. So something like this is really useful, and the AI agent's doing most of the work with something like this.
Yeah, so this one's quite a bit different in architecture, like from the first one. The first
Yeah.
one is like a lot of stuff connected, whereas here there's one central node, and that
Yeah.
node has a whole bunch of tentacles that come out on the right-hand side. Each one of those is an API of some sort, reading, writing, post a post a comment, read a comment, get a list of the comments, that kind of a thing. Send it, read the emails and so on. Think about every little um, subscript that you would have in a FileMaker database. So what's kind of cool here, and this kind of goes back to why we want Notion as a point of accessibility for editing the prompts, because most of the coding for this, the time didn't go into connecting this, right? The time went into dialing in the prompts, because that's really the new frontier of architecture, right? Is getting those prompts and something else called context management, getting those nailed down. So what's cool here is now with just changing the prompt, and as Silas was saying, that this thing actually calls itself, right? So you think of this as an agentic node, if you will, the whole thing, and it is an agent. Agent meaning it can do something on its own behalf or on your behalf. And when it can call itself, that means we can repersonify it with some new prompts. And then it can do stuff that's a lot more complex. Unfortunately, because this is connected to our internal data, we can't share what it does. But basically, I'll tell you what it does, and you have to take my word for it. And if you want to see it on a call, we gladly should demo this privately. But the gist of what Silas has built here, he's not giving himself enough credit, is we have a bot now in Slack. And that bot pings me or pings the a channel that we have, a private channel every day, and it says, "Hey, this lead or this contact, we haven't heard from them in a few days. This is where they are in a progress in a stage, And based on the information that we sent and on the emails, I mean, he has got about 4 or 5 emails that he can send as well. It'll handcraft one of those emails and it'll say, "We haven't heard from you in a while, and these are the things that are important to you. So let's follow you up with an email." And that's a massive, massive, massive bonus for anybody who's working in sales. So if you are going to build something for a client, like if you build something like this, it's a massive game changer for them. There's no more reason to even go into the software anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it looks like this automation is pretty much done, so we can jump back over here. So these last notes here are editing some properties in the database. Um, you can't see it anymore because the subprogram actually already finished, but it set this to finish transcription and also deleted the audio file just to save up some room in the database here. And the reason it set it to finish transcription is because then it executed its child program. And let's take a look at that execution here. So what this one does is it fetches all the records from the database that are finished transcription, or in other words, ready to be posted to the vector store. And then it loops over each one and calls another subprogram to actually put them in the vector store. But here we actually format the or grab the Notion page and we can format it in different ways. So we have some nodes here. This one is the one we're using right now, where we just take all the text, including the transcript, and throw it all into the vector store. But just for the sake of testing, why don't we deactivate this one and use one of these other ones? This one that I just activated just removes the transcript so that it only has the hot topics, the summary, and the title. And so if we wanted to do something like this, all we would have to do is set these pages to finish transcription. I'm going to set 3 of them. And then come over here.
Will that erase the current data and rewrite
Yeah.
it kind of thing? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I can show that too in a second here. So as you can see, it grabbed 3 records because I set 3 of them to finish transcription. And yeah, let's show the actual sub program here. So this is what's actually posting it to the vector store. And this is a pretty cool automation because it actually checks or pulls all of our files from OpenAPI and loops over each one, checking the file name. And if it finds a duplicate file, it'll actually delete it before re-uploading it. So it's essentially not only an upload file, but also an update file, or a forced update in a sense, if you give it a file name that we already have. So that way we keep our database clean.
Just going to launch a quick poll here. I'm just curious to see how
And
people use AI.
also, if you just deactivate something like these 2 nodes at the end, which upload the file, then this same program can be used to delete a file from our database as well.
If I could
All
just
right.
ask community as well, I should put this in a poll, but I don't have time. Is anybody using, it's really 2 parts. Is anybody using any kind of vector search or a semantic search, as it's called in FileMaker currently? And that's the FileMaker version. And maybe just like a show of hands kind of thing, because I don't have a poll running. And then the second question is anybody using, and I'd like to actually, if you can speak up on this one, is anybody using an external vector store? So FileMaker's released the ability to have, to host its own vector stores. But there's companies that do that. And I think actually, even one of our community companies has just recently started doing that as well. We personally use OpenAI's vector store. And the main reason for that is it works really well with OpenAI. So that way you have this really smooth, tightish integration. And I wonder if we should just kind of delve into what that is a little bit more. Let me know in the comments if you want us to talk a little bit more about what an actual vector store is. Because that might kind of help a little bit with what's happening here.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
getting some messages for that.
All right. So imagine a database. You got a database, and it's a database of documents, right? So you have FileMaker, it's a database. You have a whole bunch of documents, container fields, and you want to search on them. In FileMaker, as it stands, you can only search on the file name, maybe some metadata that you've added in a field like customer or something like this, or ID, foreign key. But we really wanted to search on the contents. So we could take those contents, scrape those contents, let's say it's a contract or an agreement, and put that in a text field, and you could sort of search on the text field, but you're doing a canonical search, like some kind of an exactish kind of search, right? It's going to have some string in there. The vector store stores the semantic meaning. So it's basically uploads the documents. And when you upload these documents, what will happen is these stores will break the documents. They'll upload, first of all, the documents are text in this particular case, right? They can be other things, but we're actually just using text here. So we'll consider that a document. And it will take that text and it'll chunk it. Chunking it is breaking down to smaller chunks. You can, for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to draw on Silas's screen here. Imagine this is a chunk here, and this is another chunk here, and the chunks may not be exactly like this, okay? I'm just drawing them like that. And these chunks can vary in size. Now what we do is we take this chunk and it creates a meaning. I'm going to kind of like put a question mark, all right? And this chunk equals some kind of meaning. And it's going to put a meaning in this here, all right? So it's going to assign it an embedding for that. By doing this, the embedding stays fairly narrow focused. It's not like like imagine you have every document in the world and you try to search, you have every document in the world as one chunk. Then it has every meaning. It has there's nothing that's more towards food, and there's not another one towards OpenAI, or then towards searching, or towards meetups. There's nothing different. So the smaller we break these chunks up within reason, the more meaning we have. Like this one has Silas as a high meaning and contribute to great team here, right? And then this one over here has integration and main project and so on. So they all have little subtleties in the meaning. Now you can go into a search, and in our case, we're using OpenAI search, but we've just added to our one of our APIs built into BetterForms that you can actually use OpenAI's vector store with anything you want. Eduardo just built this out recently, and it is in the doc. I don't know if it's actually in the docs just yet. But basically, you can search now, and you can search and find all of these little chunks. Now, when the AI searches, it doesn't just return the chunk. It actually goes and fetches that data, and it says, oh, these two chunks are of interest. So it takes those two chunks, and then when it's giving its results back, it's incorporating the data from those chunks, right? And that's how our AI assistant, and that's not something that, well, FileMaker can do it now. It couldn't do it last year, I guess. And you have to do a bunch of setting up, and you're gonna have to run another server. I honestly don't know if there's truly a good use case, why you would want to do that yourself. The data is secure, no more secure than anything else that's on the cloud, and it's cheap. It's dirt cheap, to do this. Like our stuff costs us $0.01 a month. So I think even a big network, I don't think you're gonna really amass great bills. So that's kind of the gist of what the vector store does. It basically allows you to search by all those documents, all the parts of the documents, and pull them all back. I should mention one other thing too, is the data that we store. So the data that's Silas is pushing in, he's pushing the stuff up of me talking right now and all these recordings and Chris's question and so on. He's pushing all of that stuff up into this transcript. Then that transcript is going up into the vector store. Then our chatbot that's built into BetterForms, and this could be your business chatbot. We've demonstrated numerous chatbots over the years in Friday Live here. It can have access to that same data. It's all the same data, and it's all public domain data anyway, so we don't have to branch it out. We don't have to filter it or anything. And that means you can now take not just the Friday Lives, but we can take all of every conversation that we take on Slack. Sometimes you'll notice on our Slack group, and our supporters say this conversation has been archived. When we archive it, we push that into our forum because we think it's kind of interesting and might be noteworthy in the future. We take all of those, right? Eduardo runs a routine. He pushes all of that into the same vector store. We take all of our documents, right? All of our documentation, every time we update the docs, push that in there. So now you have these three sources. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit, Silas, about the next one that we're going to be working on, which
Yeah,
is
I'll
going to
talk
be
about
the
that at the end.
examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be taking our examples and especially more specifically curated pages in better forms. We're going to take curated pages, stuff that we've built, that has, built with reasonably high quality and or examples. We'll push that in there as well. And then when we have all of this information, now our AI has access to virtually everything that, even the most advanced developer has, all of that same stuff. Vince, you had a question.
Yeah. So uh, with all this added, workflows that you have in n8n, I think of it like a FileMaker script, let's say. Um, would you look, is there a way to look at that workflow that you built in n8n and get a summary as to what it does? I'm thinking like, okay, you put it away for 6 months, you come back to it. Like, is there a way to understand or get AI to generate you a summary of what that workflow is doing? The reason I ask this is just because it's almost like, shifting the dust from one place to another place.
Mhm.
You're really just lifting the carpet and putting the dust and the complexity somewhere else. And it is beautiful. It is wonderful, all the stuff that it can do. And I agree with you. Automation is where we're going to see a lot of benefits. But I'm just curious, like maintainability, coming back to it, etc. Just your
Yeah, I
thoughts on
can
that
I
Yeah.
would be
can
great.
mention a few things. Silas this was his first project. Almost everybody in our team,
Uh,
when they start with us, they start with some kind of automation, updating the automations. I think Hassan, you did that as well, right? Started off with some automation.
Yep.
So as far as maintainability, it's the newest person to our team who knows nothing about anything. I don't mean that like in general in the world, but with us, they start right in it and they do fine. So I definitely there's almost no uptime getting to use the stuff. As far as I don't want to push back a bit, but to say that we're shifting the dust, I don't know if that's true because we don't have any dust in the first place. So we didn't
right.
have any automations. Now we could put this somewhere else. You could 100% code this whole thing in FileMaker, but I could 100% code it in BASIC too, if I had some of the tools, right? Like it's where is the right tool to do that? For this kind of stuff, I think this is a pretty decent tool.
Mhm.
But there's other AI that we have, like our AI assistant. That's actually FileMaker. That doesn't run with n8n, right? This is outside of that whole realm, so we don't bother putting it in here. So for maintainability, so it's easy, it's isolated. They don't have to know anything about any other systems or anything like that. Cool.
Also
Also,
to
yeah,
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
To expand on Vince's question, you can download this as like it downloads it as a JSON. Each one of these nodes is its own sort of block in JSON. And if you wanted, you could easily put that into some sort of chatbot and have it sort of summarize what's going on as well.
And
If you
debug. I've
Cool.
used
if
it
you
for
didn't know.
debugging too. You can export the whole JSON, and you can also get ChatGPT to say, "Hey, add another node into this, or change the way I want it to do. Take that thing, paste it back in here,
Yeah,
and
you
then
can just
suddenly,
import it as a
yeah."
JSON and have a whole workflow here.
Cool. Thanks.
I think
Thanks.
there is an MCP type thing for editing the schema of this. In other words, it's not an MCP built in n8n. It's one that can allow your chat console, your chat bot, your AI to edit this stuff as well. We haven't used it to my knowledge yet, though.
All right. Well, we wrapped up posting these most recent three Friday Lives with no transcripts. And the reason we did this is you can see what it looks like here on the page in Notion. So we have our title, our hot topics, our summary, and most of our Friday Lives, all of this, including the entire transcript, which is very long, is all getting vectorized and added to our AI assistant's vector store. But we did want to test and see maybe we can sort of include just bits and pieces and actually get more valuable results. So that's why we have these three different nodes here. So I'm gonna now deactivate this one. And this top one here is actually only going to save the hot topics. Just to recap, this bottom one saves the whole page. This middle one just doesn't include the transcript. And then this top one is just the hot topics getting added to the vector store. So now if we went back over to the database, it's super easy. We can just, these three are the others, so we'll just do these three for just the hot topics being added, and then we can just run this again. And it'll just automatically update those pages. And so now, in the coming days, we can do some testing and sort of figure out which
So that changes
works the best.
the live data in our vector database because you're calling that sub-agent or that sub-workflow.
Yeah, we're calling it right here. And then also this last node sets it to archived. You can see most of these records are archived because they're already added to the vector database here. All right, and look at that. There was 3 items and we're almost done already. It's very quick. On to the last one now. And once that finishes, we don't really have to wait. We've already demoed that. I'll just wrap up by showing some use cases here in the AI agent or AI assistant. So if we wanted to say something like, I want to catch up on Friday lives, it should be able to provide different Friday lives with links. And there we've got a couple. Again, these are actually time-stamped. This is just time-stamped to the start, but we've got a whole bunch of Friday lives available. If we wanted to say something like, give me the hot topics for the new D&D editor, which is the new drag and drop editor that we were talking about. If you wanted to learn more about that, then you could say something like this. And we've had a couple Friday lives where we've talked about new drag and drop editor updates. So yeah, you can see here we've got some hot topics, which are essentially just updates, I guess, about our drag and drop editor. And then here we've got some Friday lives associated with the drag and drop editor that you can watch as well. And yeah, let's wrap up with what Charles was talking about for next steps. So we're looking to add under our examples here, we've got tons of different examples, like hundreds of different pages, and we're going to take the best ones, which are just really good examples, and then we're going to find a way to push those to the vector store as well so that I'll have access to all these different things and it'll be able to provide code for all these different examples here. And yeah, Charles has been hard at work as well. He's mentioned the new V7 for the new instance. So if you want to talk about those changes now, I'm done. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, awesome, Silas. Thank you. Let's just see, maybe just in case there's any questions regarding that.
Oh, yeah.
Alessandro, regarding hardware requirements for FileMaker's built-in vector store, I have no idea. You have to check the docs on that. I would imagine it really depends on load, and but you're basically running your own server. I think I saw Heidi on the channel. She might know off of hand. Feel free to chime in if you do, but I don't know what the costs are of third-party companies. I do know that OpenAI charges a very nominal cost for using their vector store, so we use that fine. And quite honestly, all of our stuff that we're using is public domain, so we're not concerned too much about security. And I know everybody always complains about security, but we also did that with having FileMaker on the net. And if you remember years ago, it's like, oh, FileMaker on the wide network, we better not do it. It might be unsafe, and we're going to worry about performance. And who doesn't do that now? So I think in time, I don't think we'll be worrying too much about that kind of stuff. And Inspector app. This is interesting. Chris, you said maybe somebody could build an inspector app for N8N. What would that do, the inspector app?
Oh, he's talking about Vince's question probably before,
Oh,
where it
oh, I see.
summarizes.
Yeah,
Well,
Chris also just hopped out.
there's so much potential like for stuff. We come up with ideas all the time. It's like, where do you start, right? And I look at it from our perspective as a software as a service company and a consultant as well. But if we're just doing pure consulting, I think the money right now is to whip up these kinds of custom flows. And the average business owner is not an expert on automations, right? Our clientele, yeah, they tend to be a little bit more tech savvy because they probably started off tinkering in the database and they started building their database and you've taken it over as a consultant and so on. But for the most part, whipping up these automations for new businesses, this is not something you can branch way out of the FileMaker world now. You're not stuck anymore, right? It takes nothing to whip up one of these servers on a minimal, DigitalOcean platform or something like that for $8 a month. And you can run multiple clients on it, just have different workflows and you're maintaining them. And suddenly you have, access to automate virtually anything in that client space. Including everything, all of these AI-based workflows as well. So I think that's a phenomenal opportunity. In fact, I met somebody at a networking group last week, and that's all his business is he does basically n8n automations, right? So there's a ton of growth there. Um, I think, Chris, is Chris still on? Did he take off by any chance? Chris Conger? Oh, well,
He had to
Maybe
leave.
he's taken off.
all right. I'll show you something. He was asking about, well, why do we use a Notion? And it was an experiment. It makes it really easy to iterate on and change those things. But we don't use it only for that. We actually have an internal tool for our own AI, and I think this is really important to set up. I'll share my desktop, and I've shared this before. This is something. This is something that we have, a tool that we have, and it's called, we just gave it a nickname, or I gave it a nickname called Clarigent, but I don't know. And basically, this is a tool that we are using to quickly edit things like prompts and stuff. Um, Once you've been using FileMaker from the web perspective, like to jump into FileMaker and to open it up, launch the application and open it up, there's no comparison compared to me going into a new thing, starting to type something and boom, my app is there, right? Like it's like a no-brainer. So it having the ability to quickly make an edit or refine something, tune something up is really handy. And basically from this perspective, these are just FileMaker tables in the back end. So we have something called agents. Agents are basically the top level prompt, if you will, the top level persona of a workflow. And the one that you were just using there, is this guy here, and this is sort of just to give you an idea of what the prompting looks like in our bot. And it can be it can be totally empty, and it still sort of works, but it'll make tons of mistakes because it doesn't know about the atmosphere. Um, but to give you an idea, this is about the amount of prompting that we have here, and this is, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3K or something like that of prompting. And this is the one that's in production right now. And you'll notice there's some certain things in here. There's things like these merge variables, right? So there's a merge variable here and one here and a here. And there's a little bit of syntax highlighting here. Here's another one here and so on. And there's some few shot examples of how to generate that dynamic interface that Pearson was talking about there as well. So what's neat about this is, I'm just going to go to a newer one here. What's neat about doing something like this is it allows us to do a lot of changes. So for example, here's GPT-5. Maybe I want to connect that to a different model. Maybe I want to try Gemini 2.5 and experiment with that and see what that's like. And I can, make those types of changes. I can also go through and adjust things like, in this case, it's how many tokens it gets returned, or how many times the agent can go back and call tools. And what tools does the agent have is another thing too. So by moving this stuff into data and out of hard connections, right? I'm not running a script that says this is exactly how it is. Instead, the script is pulling the data and the data determines what it is. It's data driven, right? Data driven agent. By doing that, it allows us to quickly iterate over different things, right? You can see that this one here has a whole reasoning step because now we're talking about reasoning models. Version 2 is using 4.1. It doesn't do any reasoning at all. Reasoning is these, multiple thought processes that you see when it says thinking. Even things like dynamic buttons. Here's some examples. Hey, here's how you can make these dynamic buttons for the interface. Here's how you can make a table. Just very, very simple. And you'd be surprised at how creative it can get. Not all the models are the same. The newer models, the smarter models tend to be more dynamic and colorful when they respond and generate these kinds of feedbacks. We also have this concept of context mapping, and this is something that's a whole other topic, but context management and context tuning or engineering is something that's really, really key in making these agentic systems work. For example, it's one thing to well, Silas actually mentioned it already. He said, these transcripts are really big, and you can't just pass a transcript off the thing because they're massively long. So we have to break that down into chunks, and how are you going to process those chunks? So that's a smaller context. In our case, a user's in FM BetterForms, and they're moving around from page to page. They're on one page here, and they're over on another page there, right? Our current version of AI kind of does some context management, but the newer one allows us to dial it in a lot more. For example, if a user is on the GUI editor page, we can set what agent the conversation is going to go on, and what the subcontext, the subprompt, there's a special prompt for that page because we try to dial it in for that page. What will that use, right? So we can now map all of these things. And when we want to change something, let me see if I can do this here. You'll see that some of this, we're in the process of developing this. So some of this is using version 2 of the prompt, and some of it's using version 7 of the prompt. And you can mix and match these kinds of things really, really dynamically. So this is a lot of stuff, and you're probably most likely not going to build something as complex. But if you ever want to, that's a way of thinking about it. And at the very, very least, managing your prompts in a database is definitely a way to go. Whether it's a FileMaker table or whether it's a whole full-blown app, it doesn't really matter. But at least if you can edit the stuff there, you can have access to it, and you're more likely to tune it up. To give you an idea what these subcontext prompts are, I'll just show you a really quick one that's for, let's say, this is a small one. It's JSON, something like that. JSON. Here, okay. Here's a really small one. This is the sub prompt that generates JSON responses or JSON development data. Right. So basically, we say the current context, and we pass that context in. This is a dynamic variable. We use a custom function for this, and you could use that for all kinds of email templates and all kinds of stuff like that as well. It's one that we wrote. It's public domain, and it's on our GitHub if you want. And it also does conditional branching, so you can put if statements like if the user is this, then put this in the prompt, and if they don't, then put that in the prompt and things like that. So it's pretty powerful. And you can do evaluations in here, so like get column and things. And then here, you're a JSON generating editor, and this is where the persona comes in for that. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to generate this stuff, and here's the output rules for that. This one's pretty straightforward because it's just producing sample data, right? It does have access to various types of tools as well. Something that we have changed, and this is available in 2 because we backported it, is one of the functions to give you an idea of what tools are. Is images, pictures, images. Yeah. Here's a tool here that fetches images, and basically tools coming. We can talk about this. We have talked about it in the past, so I won't go into too much detail about what function definitions are and stuff. But I think it's something that we really do have to know how to learn to use, because it's going to give us a ton of ability in your FileMaker stuff. And yes, I'm demonstrating this from a web app from BetterForms, but it is FileMaker underneath the hood here. So this is pure FileMaker. Anything you do there is exactly the same. So this is a function called get images. And well, what does that function do? It fetches images from Unsplash. So all of these functions have things like a definition, and it says, returns images. They have some arguments. This is how many images. Well, what is the query? I want images of animals or animals with teeth or front landscapes with trees, that kind of thing. A user message that's presented on the screen for while we're running that function. And that's it. And then what's required. So that's basically the gist of the function. Now we can create these functions here, right? We can go ahead and create new ones and modify them, make the changes to those prompts dynamically, and just all we have to do is go into the chatbot, type it again. It's like, oh, there, it's more accurate now. So you can dial it in. The debugging that we do now with AI is totally different than the debugging you're doing in FileMaker. FileMaker doesn't work, it works, right? It's usually, for the most part, the same. It's a digital or a binary. AI debugging is different. It kind of works, you have to evaluate it, right? So what are your evaluations? What's the metric that you're using to evaluate that? We have a Notion document, I think I showed it last week, and it basically has a list of a whole bunch of prompts. Say, ask it for a dog, ask it for a dog and a cat, and ask it for a dog, and if that's successful, ask for a cat. And there's all these like weird edge cases and stuff like that to control that stuff. On the FileMaker side, let me just pull something up quick, and I'll show you what that function looks like on a FileMaker side on the back end too, because we have a bit of time. Just give me a sec to open something up quick. I'll pause my screen for a sec while I do that. All right. And just a second here. Okay, and play. All right. So let's see a function. All right, so let's look at this get images. What is get images? What's the FileMaker function? These are exactly the same functions that you'll use with FileMaker 25. It's exactly the same. It's just calling a script, right? So I have a function called get images here. This is the whole function to fetch the images that's in our AI. So what is it doing? It's taking in the context or arguments. There's some wrapper stuff, but you can ignore that. We have arguments getting passed into the script. FileMaker does the exact same thing. It passes the arguments for the script call. I break the arguments out: query, topics, count, and additional instructions. And the additional instructions, that's not actually not an argument there. And then we're calling a script called get photos, right? I have a subscript and we broke this down into it. We don't do the actual call right in here because it wouldn't be good sort of coding. It's better to have a subscript that handles that in case we want to change that. What does get photos do? It takes that same stuff, puts together a URL, and it calls a script called HTTP request, which is just an insert from URL wrapper script. And that's it. It returns that. It returns the data back out to the top. We build a response object back to the AI, and sometimes we add in additional instructions in there. Additional instruction to the AI would be, this is returning 1 of 17 records or 720 of 500 records. Refine your search for better records. So the AI says, oh, I only got this many records back. All right. So it's just some extra prompting, extra information. And that's it. Functions are super, super easy to build. And we probably won't have a talk specifically on FileMaker as such, because this is we've already talked about it so many times on our Friday Lives, but that's kind of the gist. I don't know. Is there anybody who's using the new agentic workflows ability in FileMaker 25? And I guess the question is, it doesn't sound like it, but is the reason that I don't know how the heck this stuff works? Is that what it is? I don't know a use case for it. I can figure it out, or I just don't care because I'm going to retire next week. Could be that too, right?
Well, it's all of I don't know how it works, and I haven't been motivated to learn it because I don't have a use case immediately for it.
So I think the use case is a driver, right? Like you need a use case, and then it's like, okay, I just did this.
If I knew how it works, I'd probably find use cases for it more easily as well.
Hmm. Well, maybe that's something that we can definitely talk about because we've done a ton of work in this area for the past, I don't know, 3 years now, I guess, since GPT-3. And it's pretty cool that the stuff that the ability to call tools now has gone through the roof in LLMs. They're all good now at calling tools. Where I don't know, is Eduardo still on the call? Yeah. Remember, Eduardo, you remember how hard it was to get like GPT-3 or 3.5 to call a tool? We didn't, there wasn't any tools. There weren't
Yeah.
tools built in at the time. We had to fudge it. But
Yeah, it wouldn't be consistent at all.
yeah,
And if it ever did, it wouldn't be at the right time and stuff like that.
yeah, it was really hard to get them to call tools. Now it's pretty easy. All right. Is there anything else that we can sort of cover in this time while we got us here before we go on to the next thing? Covered quite a few things. Okay. I think what we'll do then is we'll jump to our draw, and then we're gonna actually, we'll not necessarily finish early, but we'll finish our recording early. All right, we're gonna jump to our draw. I'm just gonna finish the recording here. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next month.